Here's a Ruger American Rimfire function test. This here's the ejector out of this rifle. Here's a Ruger about a 1022. This here's the ejector out of this rifle. How can either one of these rifles possibly operate without an ejector in them? Everybody knows it's an essential part of the functioning of a rifle, and it is. Let's go inside, let's take these rifles apart and figure out why they work without an ejector. Hi, I'm John Hallis from Dauntless Endeavors. We're back in the shop and warming up. Boy, the cold weather sure makes my nose run. It reminds me of that cold hard fact that I was born upside down. My nose runs and my feet smell. So back to the whole ejector problem here. I still have my ejectors. This is the ejector out of the Ruger 1022. Here's one out of the Ruger American Rimfire. And how can they possibly work with them missing from the rifle? I think it's easier to show on the Ruger American Rimfire than it is on the 1022. So I'm going to take this apart, we'll zoom in on the benchtop, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes. I pulled the barreled action out of the Ruger American Rimfire stock. I have the two action blocks, front and fore and aft, fully seated down into the stock. The magazine is inserted, and I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit to help get orientation. So, what you can see here is that here is the ejector that I reinstalled into the rifle, and it's perfectly in line and flush with this back shoulder of the magazine. So as that bolt is traveling rearward, the edge of the cartridge could not possibly catch that because it's going to catch something up in front of it. So in practice, when you are firing and operating the bolt either on the bolt action American Rimfire or on a 1022, when that bolt comes back and catches right there, this little edge on the magazine actually serves as the ejector in actual firing. That doesn't mean that we can take out these ejectors and eliminate them in terms of, oh, let's save 1 gram of weight off the rifle. They still serve a vital purpose, because when you are unloading this rifle, now you've just removed this ejector, and the ejector has to do its job to kick that last round out of either rifle. One other advantage of why I think Ruger designed it this way is that, especially on the 1022, which preceded the Ruger American Rimfire by nearly 50 years, 60 years almost, is that the bolt on the, imagine this is the semi-auto 1022, when the bolt's back here, it still is traveling rearward at a very high rate of speed. If you were to use the actual ejector, by that time, the bolt is almost all the way back to its point of travel, and it's slowing down, and you're not going to get a good forceful, vigorous ejection of that empty cartridge. Plus, when it hits here and is ejected by that feature on The magazine, it gives you, the rifle has more time for that empty to clear the action while the bolt's still going back and then returning into battery with a new round. So by now, if you're still watching, you're probably wondering, okay, that's great, John, but what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Well, actually not a whole lot. It's a bit of interesting Ruger trivia regarding their designs of their rifles. And I actually came upon it because occasionally I'll see people on forums say, why won't Ruger make their 1022 in left hand? People have lamented that for ever since 1964 when the first Ruger 1022 came out. And granted, these magazines certainly have a right-hand bias to them with the shape of it, but I spent some time thinking about, okay, could you still make it work somehow? And once I realized that it doesn't just have a right-hand bias, it has a right-hand function as well, and I thought, no, it will never work unless you make a mirror image left-hand magazine, which Ruger introduced a few years ago. And unfortunately, now they're not interchangeable between rifles. And that's the one feature that you lose. But still, if you're a left-hander, I hope that they come out with a few different models besides their one version of left-hander. Because my daughter's left-handed, and I think this is America's favorite 22. It would probably be hers as well. There you go on my fascinating trivia on the Ruger 1022 and where's the ejector. Thank you so much for watching. I'm John Hallis from Dauntless Endeavors. Have a great day and be safe.